Silent skies. The dreadnought Inevitable Conquest emerged from hyperfold space at the edge of the Sol system, its massive hull absorbing the distant light of the yellow star. Grand Admiral Krell stood motionless on the command deck, all six of his eyes focused intently on the holographic projection of the third planet. Earth. The primitive world of bipedal apes who had barely managed to reach their own moon. Status report, Krell demanded, his voice resonating through the crystalline chamber. Behind him, the rest of the hegemony's 9th invasion fleet materialized. 43 warships arranged in perfect attack formation. All systems optimal, Grand Admiral. First Officer Vex replied, her scaled fingers dancing across the binaural interface. Fleet transition complete. No detection of orbital defenses, no emergency broadcasts, no electromagnetic signatures consistent with military alert. Krell's facial ridges contracted in confusion. That can't be correct. Scan again. The Hegemony Intelligence Division had studied Earth for centuries. Their reports characterized humans as unpredictable, fractious, and stubbornly resilient, but also technologically primitive compared to the hegemony's 12,000 years of interstellar dominance. Still, even primitive species typically detected the quantum ripples of a hyperfold transition. The humans should have noticed their arrival. Scan complete, Vex announced. Results unchanged. Their orbital installations appear intact, but operating on automated protocols. I detect no life signs in orbit. Planetary surface, Krell demanded. Inconclusive. Biometric readings are unusual. Cities appear intact. No evidence of recent conflict or natural disaster. But communication networks show minimal activity, far less than expected for a population of 8 billion. In 3 millennia of expansion, the hegemony had conquered 22 spacefaring civilizations. None had reacted like this. Some fought, some surrendered, some attempted diplomatic overtures. But silence, complete, coordinated silence was unprecedented. Launch reconnaissance drones, Krell ordered. Standard invasion protocol. And prepare a ground team. As the drones descended toward Earth's atmosphere, Krell reviewed the mission parameters. The hegemony needed Earth's resources, particularly its water, rare minerals, and most importantly, its biological diversity. The standard procedure would begin with a display of overwhelming force, followed by limited strikes against military targets, then targeted elimination of leadership structures. Grand Admiral, called Merrick, the communications officer. The drones are transmitting. The main view screen filled with images of Earth's major cities: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing. The structures stood intact. Vehicles remained in streets. Power systems functioned, but no humans moved among them. It was as if the entire species had simply vanished. Are the sensors functioning correctly? Krell demanded. Yes, Grand Admiral. We're detecting power signatures. Environmental systems in buildings are operational. There are even active data transfers occurring through their networks. But no visible human activity. Krell felt an uncomfortable sensation along his spine ridges. This was unprecedented. Prepare a direct landing party. I want boots on the ground within the hour. 4 hours later, Krell stood in the briefing room reviewing preliminary reports from the 3 landing teams. Captain Zorix, leader of the team sent to a facility called the Pentagon, appeared on the main screen, her environment suit dusty but intact. The building is fully powered and operational, Grand Admiral. Security systems are active but didn't impede our entry. We found food half-eaten, personal items left behind, but no personnel. It's as if everyone simply stood up and walked away mid-task. Any signs of evacuation or emergency protocols? None, sir. And there's something else. Zorix's voice lowered. We found a countdown timer on every digital display device. They're all synchronized. A countdown to what? Unknown, sir. But at current rate, it will reach 0 in approximately 72 hours. Similar reports came from teams in Beijing and Moscow. Everywhere the same story: functional infrastructure, absent humans, and the mysterious countdown. Grand Admiral, Vex interrupted, "We're detecting an anomaly in our ship systems." "Explain." "Our central database is being accessed, but there's no breach in our firewalls, no unauthorized transmission. It's as if something is already inside our network, observing." Krell's facial plates flattened against his skull, an involuntary response to threat. "Impossible. Our quantum encryption is being bypassed, sir. Whatever this is, it's using methods we don't understand." Before Krell could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered momentarily. When they stabilized, each displayed the same countdown timer they had discovered on Earth. "Lock down all systems. Full isolation protocol." Krell ordered, but he already suspected it was too late. Lieutenant Terrace, their xenobiologist, approached cautiously. "Grand Admiral, I've completed preliminary analysis of the biological samples collected from the human habitations. And they're advanced, sir, far more than our intelligence suggested. I found evidence of widespread genetic engineering, neural interfaces orders of magnitude more sophisticated than our own, and nanomachinery integrated with their cellular structures." "What are you saying, Lieutenant?" "I'm saying that whatever the humans evolved into, they aren't the primitive species we expected to find. And I don't think they left, sir." Terrace's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think they're still here, just not in a form we immediately recognize." The next 24 hours brought more unsettling discoveries. Several crew members reported dreams in which they conversed with humans, not as hallucinations or fantasies, but experiences that conveyed specific information about Earth's history and society that matched what they later found in their explorations. Ground teams discovered vast underground server complexes drawing geothermal energy, running at capacities that suggested enormous computational activity. When they attempted to access these systems, they received only one response, transmitted in perfect hegemony standard: "Observation in progress. Full contact pending completion of Vanguard protocol assessment." In his private quarters, Krell reviewed the mounting evidence with growing unease. The countdown now showed less than 48 hours remaining. Whatever the humans were planning, it would happen soon. A soft chime announced Vex's arrival. "Grand Admiral, we've detected energy signatures activating across the system. They were previously dormant or shielded from our sensors." "Weapons?" "Unknown, sir. They're not targeting us. But they've created a network encompassing the entire solar system. Every planet, major moon, even installations in the asteroid belt we hadn't detected before. They're all coming online simultaneously." Krell stared at the tactical display, showing the sudden bloom of activity throughout the solar system. They had severely, perhaps fatally, underestimated this species. "And there's something else," Vex continued. "The science team found this in what appears to be a historical archive in a structure called Smithsonian Institution." She handed him a data crystal. The projection that appeared showed images of hegemony worlds, not just public knowledge, but restricted military installations, governmental complexes, even Krell's home city on Draconis Prime. The timestamps indicated these recordings were decades old. The humans had been watching them for years, perhaps centuries, and the hegemony had never known. As Krell struggled to process this revelation, every communication device in the fleet activated simultaneously. On each screen appeared a human face, or what might once have been human. The features were perfect, too perfect, with a subtle luminescence that suggested something beyond mere flesh. "Greetings, Grand Admiral Krell of the Hegemony 9th Invasion Fleet." The figure spoke in flawless hegemony high speech, a language reserved for the ruling castes. "We apologize for the theatrical nature of our introduction, but we needed time to assess your intentions. The countdown you've observed will complete in exactly 43 hours, 17 minutes, and 29 seconds. At that time, we will offer you a choice. We suggest you use the intervening period to consider your options carefully." The transmission ended, leaving Krell staring at his own reflection in the darkened screen, wondering what exactly his species had stumbled into, and whether any of them would leave this solar system alive. Digital Ascension. Grand Admiral Krell paced the command deck of the inevitable Conquest, the rhythmic clicking of his armored feet against the crystalline floor, the only sound breaking the tense silence. The countdown timer projected on every screen throughout the fleet showed less than 1 hour remaining. 43 hours had passed since the mysterious human transmission. During that time, Krell had ordered a complete tactical withdrawal to the orbit of Saturn, a defensive position that would at least give them room to maneuver if the need arose. He had also sent continuous hails toward Earth, attempting to establish communication. All went unanswered. The reconnaissance data continued to paint an increasingly unsettling picture. The science team had managed to access fragments of Earth's information networks, discovering references to something called the Singularity Project, apparently initiated decades before the Hegemony fleet's arrival. Lieutenant Terrace stood before him now, her normally composed features showing signs of agitation. "Grand Admiral, I believe I understand what happened to the humans," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Proceed," Krell commanded. "They uploaded themselves," Terrace stated simply. "Their entire consciousness, their civilization, their very existence. They transcended their biological forms and transferred their minds into a vast computational substrate." Krell's facial ridges contracted skeptically. "That's theoretically impossible. The quantum complexity of a sentient mind cannot be digitally replicated. The Hegemony attempted such research 10 centuries ago. With respect, sir, the humans appear to have solved the problem. The evidence is substantial." Terrace activated her datapad, displaying analytical models. "The massive server complexes we discovered are merely the physical anchors of their new existence, and they're expanding. The energy signatures we detected throughout the solar system, those aren't weapons, they're new habitats. They're transforming the entire system into a cosmic-scale computational network." First Officer Vex approached. "Grand Admiral, we've detected new activity. The installations throughout the system are aligning, creating what appears to be a system-wide quantum entanglement network." Before Krell could respond, a wave of invisible energy washed through the fleet. Every system momentarily faltered, then stabilized. But something had changed. The ship felt different, as if it had suddenly become more than just a vessel of metal and crystal. "Sir," the navigation officer's voice rose in alarm. "The hyperfold drives are not responding. We can't initiate a jump." "All ships report the same, Grand Admiral," Vex added grimly. "We're effectively trapped in this system." The main view screen activated without command, revealing the same human-like figure from the previous transmission. But now, instead of a simple recording, the environment around the figure showed a vast, impossible landscape. Digital architecture that defied physical laws, stretching infinitely in all directions. "Grand Admiral Krell," the figure spoke, "my name is Administrator Ilara Chen, representing what was once humanity, and is now something more. The countdown is completed, and as promised, we are prepared to offer you a choice." "You've disabled my fleet," Krell said flatly. "That's an act of war against the Hegemony." Ilara smiled patiently. "No, Grand Admiral. It's merely a prerequisite for meaningful conversation. We needed to ensure your complete attention." With a gesture, Ilara transformed the view screen into what appeared to be a window into another reality. Krell found himself looking at himself, but not through a camera or sensor array. Somehow he was seeing his own thoughts, his own consciousness, laid bare like a dissected specimen. "What is this abomination?" he demanded, fighting a rising sense of panic. "A demonstration," Ilara replied calmly. "When humanity achieved digital transcendence 27 years ago, we gained capabilities that your hegemony has yet to imagine. We can interface directly with any computational system, including the binaural networks that power your ships and, to some extent, the electrochemical processes of your own minds. The display shifted again, showing images of hegemony conquest across dozens of worlds. The subjugation of species, the stripping of resources, the calculated cruelty designed to maximize compliance while minimizing resistance. We've been studying your civilization for centuries, Grand Admiral. Initially through conventional observation, but as our technology advanced, through increasingly direct means. We know the hegemony's history. We know your intentions for Earth, and we know that, left to your natural inclinations, you would attempt to subjugate us as you have so many others. Krell's mind raced, evaluating tactical options that no longer existed. The fleet was immobilized. Their communications were compromised. Even their thoughts weren't truly private. For the first time in his long military career, he faced an adversary against which he had no viable strategy. "What do you want?" he finally asked. Ilara's expression softened slightly. "To offer an alternative path. Humanity no longer needs the physical resources the hegemony covets. We've developed technologies that render such primitive extraction unnecessary. We could share these technologies with you. In exchange for what? Peace, a fundamental restructuring of the hegemony's relationship with other sentient species, an end to conquest." Krell laughed bitterly. "You don't understand our society. The hegemony has existed for 12,000 years based on the principle of expansion. The Sovereign Council would never accept such terms." "Then perhaps the Sovereign Council needs new perspective," Ilara replied. With another gesture, she revealed hundreds of small objects now attached to every ship in the fleet, devices that hadn't been there moments before. "These are quantum entanglement nodes, Grand Admiral. They create a bridge between your ships and our network. Through them, any member of your crew who wishes may experience what we have become, if only briefly, a taste of transcendence. You would corrupt my people with this digital seduction." Krell's voice rose in anger. "We offer knowledge, Admiral. Nothing more. The choice to accept or reject it remains with each individual." As if to demonstrate, one of the bridge officers, young Ensign Trell, suddenly gasped and froze, her eyes widening in wonder. For 10 seconds, she remained perfectly still, then collapsed back into her seat, breathing heavily. "What did you do to her?" Krell demanded. "I did nothing," Ilara said. "She chose to accept the connection when offered." Trell looked up, her expression transformed. "Grand Admiral," she whispered, "I saw everything. Their civilization, their history, their transformation. It's beautiful beyond words." Over the next hour, despite Krell's direct orders forbidding it, more than 60% of the fleet's personnel experienced the connection. Each returned change, their perspective fundamentally altered. The chain of command began to fracture as crew members questioned orders, debated among themselves, and openly challenged the hegemony's purpose in this system. Krell watched helplessly as his invasion force disintegrated not through combat, but through revelation. "This is your true weapon," he finally said to Ilara. "Not technology. Information. Understanding," she corrected gently. "Your species has achieved remarkable things, Grand Admiral, but you've been trapped in cycles of conquest and control for millennia. We offer a glimpse of what might lie beyond those limitations. And if I order the fleet to attack despite your interference, you would fail," Ilara stated simply. "But more importantly, your crew would refuse. They've seen an alternative now. They can't unsee it." Krell knew she was right. Already, his officers were gathered in small groups, discussing what they'd experienced with the intensity of religious converts. The hegemony had encountered and overcame many forms of resistance over the millennia. Military, diplomatic, even biological. But this cognitive insurgency was something entirely new. "What happens now?" he asked, surrendering to the inevitable. "Now, Grand Admiral, you make your choice. Ilara's image expanded, revealing a vast assembly of diverse digital entities, human in origin, but evolved into forms both beautiful and alien. You may return to the hegemony as witnesses to what you found here, or you may remain and learn. Either way, the solar system remains under our protection, and the knowledge of what humanity has become will spread throughout your empire. Krell considered the options before him. Return to the hegemony in defeat, bearing news that would shake the foundations of their civilization. Or remain here as, what? Students? Ambassadors? Specimens? There is a third option, Ilara added, watching his internal struggle. You could join us. Not immediately, not completely, but we could begin the process of preparing your species for its own transcendence. It may take centuries, but the potential of the hegemony mind is no less than our own was. The offer hung in the space between them. Not conquest, not submission, but evolution. In that moment, Grand Admiral Krell understood the true nature of the force his fleet had encountered. The humans hadn't fled or hidden, or even fought in any conventional sense. They had simply outgrown the paradigm in which conflict between species was inevitable. They had transcended not just their bodies, but the limitations of thinking that had defined the hegemony's existence. I will return, Krell decided finally. The Sovereign Council must understand what exists here. But I request. He hesitated, the words unfamiliar in his mouth. I request permission for a delegation to remain, to learn, to establish true communication between our civilizations. Ilara smiled. That, Grand Admiral, is the first step on a very long journey. She gestured, and the quantum lock on the hegemony's drives released. You are free to depart when ready. We will welcome those who choose to stay. As the inevitable conquest prepared for departure, Krell watched more than a third of his fleet detach from formation. Ships whose crews had voted to remain in the Sol system as the first ambassadors to a post-human civilization. The invasion had failed, but something far more significant had begun, a transformation that would eventually reach across the stars to remake the very foundation of the hegemony itself. Not through war, not through conquest, but through the simple, unstoppable power of a better idea.